I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. So, today we will be doing our grade 5 English lesson on frequently confused words. So, we'll be doing our grade 5 English lesson on frequently confused words. And before we start, we're going to log into aplusstudents.ca. Once we've logged into aplusstudents.ca, with our username as well as our password. And then we're going to select the subject of language arts and then grade 5. All right, so once you have selected grade 5, you're going to scroll down up until you get to the chapter of frequently confused words. So we're going to basically find out what frequently confused words are, but it's definitely to do with words that are misused or confused for another word because either it sounds the same or the spelling is similar. All right, so our chapter that we are focusing on today is frequently confused words. Our subject is English, which is also language arts, grade 5. And our lessons that we will be focusing on today under the chapter of frequently confused words, it's to use the correct frequently confused word and to use the correct homophone. So that is going to be our lessons under our chapter, which is frequently confused words. All right, so basically, certain words, right, are often confused with another word, right? And most times the words are confused with another word because it either sounds the same or it kind of looks the same, right? Or looks the same, meaning in the sense of spelling. There's like either one or two words that are different, right? So when we are writing, right, or in our writing, we should definitely pay very close attention to these words. And during the course of this lesson, we are definitely going to find out a few of the more common words that we use when, like in a like let's say in a confused way, where we write it in a different like we write it within that sentence, but it is actually the wrong word, right? And we're definitely going to find out during this lesson what those words are. So you should definitely pay close attention to these words, right? These words that are often confused with another word, and we need to make sure that we use them correctly, right? For example, like if we use fewer and less, right? So basically, both fewer and less have the same meaning, right? So it has the same meaning. So usually, fewer or less, it means that you don't have much, right? So that is basically what it means. But if we really try to use them in a different way, or to let, or basically just to see them in a different way, or if we use them differently within the context in which they are supposed to have been used, right? Then we would say that fewer is described for things that you can count, right? So then we'll basically describe fewer as things that you can count, right? For example, like pencils, right? So there are fewer pencils, fewer books, right? So that is how we use the word fewer, right? So, like I say, both words fewer as well as less means that you do not have much of that, right? But when we use the word fewer, then we use fewer to describe things that you can count. So anything that you can count, it's like they say it's a countable noun, right? So anything that you can count, for example, like pencils, like books, right? Then we say fewer. Then we use the word fewer. Even people, right? So even people, then we can, for example, say there are fewer people than expected that came to watch the race because we can count people. It's like saying last week there was 100 people and today there are 50 people, which means there are 50 fewer people than expected. Then we also have the word less, right? So fewer as well as less. So, like, as much as they have similar meanings, right, they are basically described differently. So then we use less to describe things that you cannot count. Like, for example, water you cannot count, right? So we use less to describe things that you cannot count. Like, for example, water. Our town, an example of that is our town received less snow this winter due to the heat wave. Can you count snow? No. And that is why we say we use the word less snow this winter due to the heat wave. And if you compare last year's winter to this winter and the amount of snow that basically, let's say, the town got, then we can say there is less snow this winter, let's say, for example, than last winter, or due to the heat wave. So this is but two examples of words that are more commonly confused with one another, right? Like fewer and less. And like we say, fewer and less, they do have the similar meaning, right? It's where you don't have much of something. However, we should definitely use them different. And when it comes to fewer, then we describe fewer for things that you can count. And we describe less for things that we cannot count. And then we made an example of either fewer people, because people we can count, and less snow, because snow is something that we cannot count. Rain cannot count. You cannot count how many droplets of rain it is today or there is today. So this is but a few examples. And like I say, certain words are often confused with one another, mainly because either they are the meanings are similar, or sometimes the spelling are kind of similar, or sometimes the wording are just slightly different, right? But whenever you write, then you need to pay close attention to these specific words, and then you need to make sure that you use them correctly. And when it comes to the commonly confused words, right? So when it comes to the commonly confused words, then some of the words are spelled differently, but they sound exactly the same. And this is where our homophones come in, right? So usually our homophones are words that are sometimes like spelled differently but sounds the same. So with the confused words, some words are either spelled differently but sounds the same, or sometimes it sounds the same but it's spelled differently. Some words are spelled the same but are pronounced differently or sounds differently. And then we have some words that do not share the same spelling or pronunciation but are often confused. And all of these words that we basically made mention of without making mention of the specific words, they are called commonly confused words. All right, so basically, the one very much commonly confused word, right, is affect and effect, right? So this is usually like one of the most commonly confused word because the word basically is spelled the same. It's like one letter difference, right? So it's like one letter difference, and a lot of people, even adults, they get this word. Let's say they confuse the word when it comes to either in meaning, in writing, or even conversations. So if we basically find the meaning of these two words, right? So affect with an A, right? So AFFECT, right? So affect. So affect firstly is a verb, right? It's a verb. And affect, it means to influence or to produce a change in something or someone. And if we look at an example of affect, right, then we can say pollution negatively affects the environment, right? Which means that if we pollute, then it will either affect the environment, and it will definitely affect the environment in a negative way. That is affect, like something bad will happen. Then we have effect, right? And effect is a noun. And if we spell effect, it is EFFECT. That's effect. And like I said, there's one letter difference within this word. So effect is a noun and it's an impact or change or even result. For example, exercise and healthy eating have positive effects. And what are the effects? You are more healthier, you're living a more balanced life, right? So that are similar effects when it comes to, for example, exercise and healthy eating and the effects that they have. So this is basically two words, like I say, that are commonly confused words. So it is important to also know the meaning of these words in order for you to know in which context to use these words. And if we look at example of more commonly confused words, we said affect and effect, then bad and badly. You did bad in the test. You did badly in the test. Comprise and compose, hone and home, principle and principle. So this word principle, it's like if example say it is the principle for you to just be honest, just speak the truth. And then this principle is basically the, let's say, the head or the manager of the school. So it is important for you to know, firstly, the meaning of the word. I think it's even best if you know if it's either a noun, a verb, an adjective, an adverb, in order for you to know in which context to use it. All right. So basically, our lesson that we are also doing, it's on aplusstudents.ca. So our tutorial lesson that we are focusing on is on aplusstudents.ca. So even today we will be working on aplusstudents.ca. And then if you want to go back later on, go over the lesson, then you can go back to aplusstudents.ca. The chapter, subject, grade, as well as the lessons are currently on the board. All right, so now let's go to aplusstudents.ca, which is the title Frequently Confused Words. And we're going to the first lesson, which is to use the correct frequently confused word. So see that certain words, right, are often confused with another, right? And when we are writing or in our writing, we should definitely pay close attention to these confused words, right, in order to make sure that we are using them correctly. And we made an example of fewer and we made an example of less. And we said that the word fewer, right, we mainly use when we can count something, right? Like pencils, people, books, right? Then we use the word fewer. And less we use to describe things that we cannot count, right? Like water and rain. Those are things that you cannot count. So that is when we use either fewer or less. And yes, we do sometimes confuse them. Because also, when it comes to fewer as well as less, right, they basically have similar meanings. And we also made mention of the word affect and effect, right? That was the two words that we also made mention of. And affect and effect, they have similar spelling. And I said that they are basically just different by one letter, which is A for affect and E for effect. So affect and effect, they have similar spellings and they can also sound the same. So depending on how you say it, it can also sound the same. So if I say affect and effect, right, without, let's say without stressing the words, then it will basically sound the same. However, affect and effect, they have different meanings. So when it comes to affect, right, then affect, it is usually a verb, right, that means to change or to influence. And then we have effect, right, which is usually a noun that means an outcome or a result. For example, our team was losing, but I tried not to let that affect my performance. So what did they do? They kept on pushing and kept on performing. And then the word effect, right? The new medicine has an amazing effect on cold symptoms. So affect, it's basically a verb where it's like something can actually, it can either affect you, it can touch you, right? It is something that can physically happen. That is why we say it's a verb. And then with effect, right? It's either outcome or results. And it's like the example that we made earlier on about healthy living or healthy eating, right? So basically, you need to find out what are the benefits or the effects of healthy living or healthy eating, right? So it's an outcome or result that you will get from maybe eating healthy. It's the outcome or effect that you will get by taking this new medicine, right? So affect and effect is one of the most commonly confused words, as well as fewer and less. So we're going to do a little activity, right? And then thereafter we are going to do a test on how to use the correct frequently confused words. So we need to complete the correct word. If you are done reading my copy of the New Yorker, could you please it to you, bring it with you when you come over dinner tonight? So you're gonna have to choose between, do we say take it with you or do we say bring it with you? So if you're done reading the copy of the New Yorker, could you please take it with you when you come over for dinner tonight or bring it with you when you come over for dinner tonight? What do you think is the correct word to use to complete that sentence? Is it take or is it bring? All right, so if we use the correct word, and then we're going to say, if you are done reading my copy, right, of the New Yorker, could you please bring it with you when you come over for dinner tonight, right? So bring it with because you are coming to me, right? So bring it. Remember, we use the word take, right? We use the word take when you're either going, let's say, the opposite way. You're bringing it to me because you're coming to me, and you take it to whoever when you are leaving or you are going to someone else, right? That is the difference between taking and bringing. So you're the saying that use that something be moved in your direction, meaning it's coming to me because you're bringing it to me. And we use take to request that something be moved away from you. Yes, it's like we say, if you take something, then you are taking it to someone else, right? But bringing, saying that I'm saying bring it to me, then it means that you need to bring it to me, right? It needs to come in my direction. So are you asking, does bring and take have the same meaning? Because bringing something and taking something has opposite meanings. It's just it is being used in the wrong context. Because most times say take the take the newspaper to me, right? But it's actually bring it to me and take it to whoever. So bring and take, they basically have opposite meanings. Opposite in the sense of opposite requests, because bring means you're moving it to me, you bringing it to me in my direction. And taking it, it's like you are moving it elsewhere, away from me. It's like in the opposite direction. All right. It's thank you for asking also. All right, let's go to another word, right? The yoga instructor told her students to sit down or to sit down on their mats and stretch for several minutes to warm up before the lesson starts. So, what is the word that we need to use in order to complete the sentence? The correct word. Do we say the yoga instructor told the students to sit down or to sit down on their mats and stretch for several minutes to warm up before the lesson starts? All right, so our correct word to use is to sit down. Because, firstly, when we do yoga, we are sitting, right? We are sitting. So, to sit down and not to sit down. I think sit is probably how people speak, way somebody probably pronounces something. Because remember, when you sit down, it's like you are relaxing your body in a ground, right? And sit something down is where you put it down in a particular place. And we don't say sit something down when it comes to people. So it is sit down. It's where we're relaxing our body, right? In a chair or even on the ground. But sit is when you put something down in a particular place. And then we have At 4,400 words, the United States Constitution is shorter. Do we shorter than, or do we say shorter than the written constitution of any other major in the world? So at 4,400 words, the United States Constitution is shorter than or shorter than the written constitution of any other major country in the world. So what is the word to use? Do we use than or do we use then? Than or then? All right, so if we select the correct word, right, in order to complete the sentence, and then we're going to say that at 4,400 words, the United States Constitution is shorter than the written constitution of any other major country in the world. So than is the correct word to use. And yes, than is correct. Well done. Than is correct. And if we look at the meaning words then and the, we use than, right? So the word than, which is THAN. We use than when you are making a comparison. We did, right? It's like a choice that we are making. And then we use then when you are describing a particular time when something happened. So then is when we are making a comparison. And then is when we are, let's say, describing a particular time that something happened. So then is our correct choice of text or word in the text. All right, so now we're going to do our test, right? Where we use the correct frequently confused word. So we're going to have to complete the text with the correct word. And these are basically different words, right? The spelling are similar. All right, so it says, after Mia and Al pitched. Do we say after Mia and Danelle pitched their, or their business plan to the investors, they received enthusiastic praise and support? So, what is the correct answer? We need to use the correct word to complete the text. So, Army and Danelle pitched. Do we say their, which is the first one, their or their business plan to investors? They receive enthusiastic praise and support. So, what is the correct word? All right, so if we choose the correct one, then yes, we'll say it's the first one, which is there, right? So, there refers to people, right? So, it refers to people. If we use the second word there, it basically shows direction. It's over there. And the last word, they are, right? It basically means they are. So we will go with the first one. And there is correct. So well done. There is correct. Scarlett made a wire sculpture of a tree for her art project. She used steel wool to make, do we say its or its leaves? The one without the apostrophe or the one with the apostrophe? So option one without the apostrophe or option two with the apostrophe. Remember what you also need to look at, right? When it comes to, for example, within apostrophe and S, right? Words with apostrophe and S, right? Remember, it is basically two words or two small or short words that is basically put together to make one word. So if you see the word with an apostrophe and S, then it means that this means it is. So this means it is. So it says she used wool to make it is leaves. So is that correct? So Scarlett made a wise sculpture of a tree for her art project. She used steel wool to make its, and we're going to choose the first one, its, without the apostrophe S, leaves. And its is correct. And do you know who's leading the discussion at the next week's book club meeting? So is it whose, which is the first word, or whose, which is the second word, which also means who is. So do you know whose, which is the first whose, or the second word whose, which is who is, leading the discussion at the next week's book club meeting? So whose? All right, let's choose the second one, right? So do you know who's leading the discussion at the next book club meeting? So the second one, because they're asking who is, it's like asking who is leading the next meeting. So well done to all of those, or all of you who used the correct word or selected the correct word. Well done. At 4,400 words, the United States Constitution is shorter than or shorter than the written constitution of any other major country in the world. Is it shorter than or shorter than? All right, so if we select the correct word, we will select then. And then, great, so well done. So the gallery was crowded, but it was also, do we say quite or do we say quiet? People were silently admiring the Dorothea Lange photographs, which showed the poverty and hardship people faced during the Dust Bowl. So is it quite or quiet? Quite or quiet? So quiet or quiet? So the gallery was quiet or quiet? All right, so if use we use the correct word, then we're going to use the second word, which shows that the gallery was quiet as much as it was overcrowded. So quiet is correct. So well done. Well done. And now we're going to use the correct homophones, right? And we said homophones are words that sound the same, but they have different spelling as well as meanings. So homophones, they sound the same, but they have different spellings and they have different meanings, right? So my friends and I buy lunch at school. So here we have the one word buy, right? It's where you use your money and you basically buy or you give it to the shop owner and you receive something, right? It means you paid for something. Then we all eat together by the big tree. And this word by, it's either where, right? It means near, which is by the big tree. And then we say bye to each other when the bell rings, right? And that bye is short for goodbye. So this is but an example of three examples of homophones. And we said homophones are words that sounds the same, but they have different spellings as well as meanings. Now let's go to our test. We need to complete the sentence with the correct homophone. So given that there were more than 100 guests at the wedding, how many do we say presents with the CE or presents with the TS do you think Sandra and Greg have received? Is it the first presents or the second one for presents that is wrapped and under it's basically given as a wedding gift? So, given that there were more than 100 guests at the wedding, how many presents or presents do you think Sandra and Greg have received? All right, so if we select the correct homophone, we will definitely say presents. Yes, so the second one, presents, it's basically gifts. And the first word, presents, it's almost like you being there. So the second one is correct. So well done. Presents is correct. And the Eagles beat the Raiders. Do we say so, which is SOW? So or Sue, SEW or so SO. They will be playing the Falcons in the championship game. So what is the correct word that we need to use? All right, so if we select the correct word, and so is correct. Well done. Well done. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on frequently confused words. right? And we said frequently confused words is either words that you use in a different context or because either the spellings are similar, the meanings are similar, right? Or they are pronounced either the same or similar, right? So now we use it within the wrong context around sentence, right? Because of the difference that it has, right? But with frequently confused words, it's best to know the meaning of it and also to know if it's either a verb or noun in order for you to use it correctly. So, grade five, thank you very much for joining the class. Thank you very much for interacting, right? You should have a good day further. Goodbye.